Hey everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Finding Peaks. Yours truly, President, Founder, and CEO Chris Burns, joined today by an amazing guest, an even better human, Amity Cooper with Wayfinding Counseling, Human Herd Network, Clinical Career Collective.
That is a mouthful, isn't it? Wow.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you. I had a chance to connect with Amity probably about 6 weeks ago on a call and just got to learn a little bit about what you do and why you do it. And something I want to touch on early and often is you've done something really unique and I think kind of atypical in our field is you've developed 3 different businesses with respect to meeting individuals where they're at. I think it's really, really unique. Oh. You don't put boxes over people's heads and you kind of get to come into, your website reads basically, if you're looking for a solution, there's one and you may have it inside of you.
Yes.
It's really cool.
Oh,
why did you develop those 3 and maybe tell the viewers a little bit about each one of them?
Yeah, so I came into this field, I think I've always been a therapist, probably, born that way. But I really came into the mental health space about 6-7 years ago after 20 plus years as a serial entrepreneur. And I sort of dipped my toes into this kind of one-on-one work with people, really as a trained mediator and negotiator. So I have a master's degree in conflict resolution. And it was a good foreground and foundation for really figuring out how to sit side by side or knee to knee with somebody else, figuring out what their issues are. And then back in 2015, my last business closed, and I was just faced with a devastating moment of crisis. I didn't know who I was without my business. And I think there's probably a lot of listeners out there who have had that moment of existential question. And with some deep dive into myself, I realized that I really wanted to be more internally driven. I wanted to focus my life, orient my life around helping other people find their best selves. And that meant going back to school for a second degree in mental health counseling. And so I combined all those years of experience by working with others and on businesses and in projects to do that very thing about working with people on a very intimate sort of level to really uncover and unearth or excavate what their dreams are.
I think that is so unique and intentional and connecting with respect to kind of the entrepreneurial dream, yeah. Right? Gabor Mate just wrote a book, his phenomenal book called The Myth of Normal.
I haven't read it yet. Yeah,
it's a 19-hour audiobook, but it's wonderful. And what it talks about is, essentially you turn on the TV, you look out in our community, and the message is, go to the hilltop to get the pot of gold. And you'll be satiated. Life will take on new meaning. Yeah. Everything you turn on TV, it's bigger, faster, stronger, and more. You look outside, it's bigger, faster, stronger, and more. And you're bringing people back into this functional connectedness with themselves. And you mentioned something really unique too with entrepreneurs and people in business and even helpers in general, is we become really, really overcoupled with that career. It goes up, we go up, it goes down, we go down. And how do you help people manage that? How do you resource them?
Well, I think it's awareness, right? The first thing is about, okay, where am I in this? Where do I sit in this place? And it's about discovering and returning to our first principles about who we are, what makes us, what our values are, how we're in alignment or disalignment with our lives. And then we can sort of tease apart where we want to go with that. We can set a course. We have an orientation, a compass to navigate our next choices by. So I think it starts with who we are, what's fundamentally important to us, and then discovering what the next steps are.
That is so rad. And what I love about that too,
you see that as radical?
Yeah, it's super rad, like
okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, not
okay,
radical.
Sorry. Yes.
Maybe radical. No. But I think about it, not just for helpers, entrepreneurs, professionals, but why not a life book for people who are new in their recovery from mental health?
Absolutely.
Like, oh my gosh, like when you said that, I got chills. Because I can remember sitting there, my life book was created for me. I was checking out a treatment in 2007, and they said, this is who and what you are. And you will do these things, or you'll lose it all, right? And so it was a very canned and boxed treatment plan.
Safe.
Safe.
It's so safe.
Right.
I mean, don't you think the default button is sort of mediocrity these days?
Right.
I mean, we're sort of, we want to, personal responsibility, personal accountability is a really hard thing to stand in today. And it's much easier to refer to and outsource our life to other people. It's easier to take that path for most of us. Most of us are not going to spend time doing self-examination and exploration. That's just, we don't. Yeah. So if you are of a different ilk, if you have a different view, a different take on your life and what you want it to be, the only way is in and through to get to that pot of gold, if you will. And that takes deep work, and it takes time, and it's not a canned response to your life.
Right. Yeah.
So
I love what you said there, because I've been quoted as saying the only way out is through. But that's even more intentional to say the only way out is in and through. Let's not forget that in part.
Yeah.
Which is really, really important to rediscover and realign who and what I am.
Yeah.
You bring up a really good point too, because when I got into recovery at 22 years old, nearly 16 years ago, who I thought I was at that time was much more noise coming from outside in than inside out. And so it's only been in the last couple of years. I've been doing this recovery thing a long time. The last couple of years, I'm finally starting to see the efficacy of that resource inside of us, that opportunity to go within, to put our feet in the earth, to get in the cold bath, to get the sunlight on the face, to move the feet just one step after another, as slow or as fast as I need. And it took me a long time to get there. Why does this message feel so difficult to get out to the average human?
That's a really great question.
And it wasn't on the list.
That's cool. Well, I think we can, our lives are very frenetic. There is this constant looking to the outside to give us validation and confirmation that who we are and what we are striving to be is okay. Okay? So there's that. We sort of have usurped our own innate power to the outside world who really has no care or concern for us. So that's one thing.
Yeah, that's so true.
And these are skills, maybe they're life skills that aren't necessary, that we have to learn from our elders. We have to learn from people that have already gone before us. And so we don't have, and maybe this might go a little off course here, but in an indigenous culture, there are initiations, there are initiatives that are set by the elders, the teachers, the wise people, the wise ones who come back, and it's their task, it's their job to teach the ones coming up. And we don't have that base. And I think, so there's that loss here. And I think there's some mourning and there's some grief around that loss. And I think that's why so many people struggle with addictions. I think that there's so much, we're trying to find those places, those vehicles to find our inner selves. And they're misplaced, So does that answer?
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to tell me why, and then I get to back it up with a story. So I was not a couple weeks ago, during the Winter Symposium, so in February. Were you down here for the Winter Symposium? So one of the biggest conferences, at least in Southern Colorado, for treatment providers and helpers and the like. And I was telling you about before the show, my shoe stuff, right? So I'm at the conference and I have to wear these uncomfortable shoes. And I'm like, oh, I just cannot wait to get out of these shoes. And so I get back to the office and I put my Earth Runners on and I got my toe socks on. And
Feels so good.
yeah, I come to do a tour with somebody from the symposium, and it's a Wednesday. It's the last day of the conference.
Yeah.
And she comes in. It's a doctor, a pretty well-revered doctor here in Colorado. And I said, Dr. So-and-so, it's so great to see you, and I'm so grateful to have my Earth Runner sandals back on. It's like, after a conference and having to dress up and wear these shoes, and I said, and I just feel so much better having these on. And she looked at me with some of the most contagious eye contact, and she said, you should have just worn them all conference. That's who you are. And I was like, oh my gosh. You saved my life. You saved my life. So now I refuse. I told you today, I was like, today's the first day I put shoes on. But it goes back to your point. It's like I'm waiting for this external thing to tell me that I'm okay doing or being who and what I am today, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. There's a lot of those barriers, and oftentimes we feed ourselves, unfortunately, and I'm guilty of this, and I think it's human nature, is I feed myself from the outside in.
Oh,
and that creates a lot of internal disconnectedness.
Oh gosh, an incongruence, just a discomfort. Like we just don't feel right in ourselves, And I think most people can identify with that. Like they just don't. They don't feel good. Like their skin doesn't feel right, and to the touch, or there's things like it's just this innate itchiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is something. It's so interesting you say that. This innate itchiness may as well have been synonymous with my cohort that walked through, and I'm not throwing the 12-step way of life saved our life from a connectedness perspective and a social connectedness perspective.
Sure.
But a lot of my friends that we walked with, absent of resourcing ourselves internally, it's kind of this just this uneasy feeling and not feeling any sort of embodiment. And I had thought, and I think there's a number of people that are really going to be satiated by this episode, because I think there's a number of people, specifically young people in our world, that are finding resources for their mental health, that are being told a story that speaks to a life sentence of you name it.
Yeah.
And the way that you work with individuals, clients, families, and the community speaks to something so much different. You speak to healing. How do you get people to see their own healing when they're being told this external message of it's not possible?
Well, I truly believe that we have all the answers within us, right? So my job is, I see myself more as an ally and a witness to their process. It's a revealing. Like, so I use a lot of tactical empathy, deep listening, these skills that I've sort of honed in my clinical preparation and orientation. I mean, it's all about relating and seeing the person there. And I just open that up for them to explore in a safe container and space for that. And that could be done, obviously one-on-one, knee to knee, but where my sweet spot really lies is actually working outside with them in concert and in partnership with horses and my backyard, all my trees and forests. So at least like I present an opportunity for them to discover who they are in a sense of like an unguarded way, because that's what nature does for us. It provides this incredible access point, whereas we can be really guarded and sort of shored up. We wear a lot of armor every day. Yeah. I hope I'm not going down a rabbit hole here.
Makes
but
sense.
like it's just like we're so guarded against actually feeling something or showing ourselves. And that's what makes my work so powerful, is that none of that is needed. It's just giving an opportunity and an opening to explore and let all of that armor be shedded and released.
Gosh, I can actually, when you talked about your backyard, the 40 acres that you have, and the horse, and my mind went right to that spot with like the sun out and the trees, and I thought to myself, why would we not combine therapy with
Nature.
you
I
know?
know, it's the
How-
best form of therapy out there.
How cool. Some of our best therapists over the last 10 years in Peaks, in my opinion, are the ones that I can look out my office window and see them walking down a path outside,
Yeah.
or walking around the trail,
Yeah.
and just getting some fresh air and sunshine.
Walk and talk.
Walk and talk.
Yeah.
There's something somatic that really happens there.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool. And that kind of dovetails into my next point. And something that I truly believe in is equine assisted therapy. Since I've lived in Colorado Springs, I've become an even bigger believer in it because of all the veterans who have found healing and strength and equanimity within that modality. However, as we talked about before the show, I think there's some people that try to actuate that modality that do it a complete and utter disservice, unfortunately, with the way that they show up or the way they don't show up. And so I wanted you to light a passion under the viewers today and just talk about why you believe so wholeheartedly in this research, in this modality, and in this opportunity for people to heal with horses.
Oh my goodness, I love that sort of introduction, and a lot of pressure. Well, okay, so I can speak from personal experience. I didn't grow up around horses. I came to this work late in life. It's only in the last 8-10 years that horses have been an integral part of my daily life, practice, just engagement. And it's changed my orientation on my view, my worldview, my practice, and the bottom line is that horses are magic. And they are my spirit animal. And I had an opportunity. It was something that was presented in my graduate training, and there was this flyer that showed up on the pin board, and it said, "Come spend a day with horses." And that experience changed my whole trajectory of how I was going to be a therapist in the world. And I walked out into the arena, and I was surrounded by 3 horses at liberty, so that's without any halter or any sort of line, lead, anything. And it was such a powerful, profound moment for me that I knew that when I walked out of that space, that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And so that is sort of like an anecdotal experience that thousands of people have recorded. It's a qualitative example, some value of how wonderful and profound being up close and personal with a 1,000-pound animal can be, okay? Then there's all this 30-year historical research and data to back that fact, that being and surrounded and companioned with or joined up with an animal in the healing domain, healing and transformation occurs faster. It's long lasting. It changes perspectives. It changes life trajectories, and recovery and is possible. Like, you don't have to stay in this one place with this one label, if you will, of like, I'm always in recovery, or I'm always this, I'm always recovering from trauma, or I've lived my trauma. Like, it is so powerful. It's hard to put into words here, but let's see. So horses have this unique ability. They are prey animals, and they survive by being in a herd. They have an incredible sentient and intuitive way of reading their environment. And when humans, we're naturally predators, right? But when we are challenged with a traumatic experience and we don't have the skills or the ability or the know-how to reset ourselves, we live and we walk amongst others traumatized. And I know that the work that you do, you can speak to that. You see this every day. The people are just sort of heavy. Yeah. Well, All horses do is live in the present moment. They're not thinking about yesterday. They're not thinking about tomorrow. It's about right here and now. And they want to know that if you're going to come up and be next to them, are you going to be with them or are you going to be distracted? And it challenges you and it brings you so quickly into the present moment. It's like instantaneous, and things shift for the individual. And the horse's presence acts as a mirror. It reflects back your attitude, your stance, your breath. It's all of these nuanced somatic results that you see, and you watch an individual as a witness to that. And the work that I do, I actually am not doing anything in that space. Like, I'm noticing, I'm bringing attention or awareness to what is arising in that moment, and I may point that out, but it's all about processing and giving voice to that experience that human being that individual is having.
I love that.
That's
Wow.
a lot.
No, and it makes total sense to me. Is last time I did equine therapy, I was 22 years old. I was at Cottonwood Day, Tucson, and I was scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, I was scared to death of everything.
Yeah.
Not just the horse, my existence, being present, holding space. So I remember being like, oh, this isn't for me. You know, I actually get chills saying that now. When you kind of eloquently describe what holding space in equine therapy can do for an individual, that's really profound and simple tool
So simple.
to use.
So simple. And again, like, I think it goes back to I think there's a golden thread here that's being connected here in our conversation, because we originally started talking about this earthing, right? And there is being able to lock in or connect in and ground ourselves. It allows us we're stepping into the arena of life here. And so there's a metaphor for that space that I create during each session. It's like you walk through the gate, you observe first, and then you walk in and you say, are you ready? You know, and then you sort of enter the arena, you enter the horse world, and it's the subliminal sort of like space. Mm-hmm. And then all the rest is the magic. I mean, it's just the engagement, the slowness, the steadiness, the process, and then things happen. Yeah. I mean, I've watched clients just taking the lead line, just taking a horse and being able to walk with the horse around the pasture takes patience, takes acceptance of, like, I might not know what to do, but if I just put my one foot in front of the other, I might be able to do this. And you see the body sort of like, maybe it's really stiff or crooked or whatever, and all of a sudden somebody's alignment, just like, you see that sushumna, that line of energy, just like elevate them. They just walk taller, they walk fuller, they're more open. The horse's ears perk up, there's something that joins up, and it's so magical and powerful and beautiful.
That is so wonderful. In fact, since we started with the earthing thing, it might be top of mind for me to do some equine therapy. I think that would be really cool. I think I'm in a really funky spot in my life to really receive that resource. Because as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, maybe that could be me. Maybe I could hold a horse. I've never held a horse before. I've only ridden a horse one time, and it bucked me off. It didn't buck me off, kind of fell and bucked me off. It was trying to help itself. We're going down a hill. Yeah. But the mindfulness and attunement that can come as a result of one of those sessions, and maybe you have your shoes off, maybe you don't, but I'm envisioning, like, really receiving Earth's energy while you're beginning to hold space with and potentially align with this animal that could step on your head. Yeah. Right? And so I think that's important too, for whatever reason.
They represent, like I was saying, that subliminal world, right? There's above and below. But a horse, if you think about it symbolically, right? Rides across the world. You have nightmares. You think about, what is that? That's a female black horse that tramples through your subconscious, your dream life. And what does that represent? What are they riding in to your life? And so to be in touch and next to this very like intellectual and an instinctual animal, that's pure instinct. It's embodied, right? And they're showing you how to be okay with that. Can you hold the tension of an intellectual body and an instinctual body? Do you know the difference? Can you integrate those two? And you can do that by just standing with and alongside this animal who shows you the way. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but is a powerful, effective treatment, clinically tested, proven process. And it's changed so many lives, and it has the potential to change thousands, millions more.
Yeah, I agree, especially if people can get in front of authentic and integrous providers like yourself. You're reminding me of a equine-based opportunity. I may have been introduced to it by a friend. It's called Mustang medicine.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar?
Yeah, I am.
So a little bit differently, but I think Mustangs, correct me if I'm wrong, but they live more in the limbic brain, right?
I don't know about that per se, but I think the Mustang, I mean, our country and in our backyard, we have a lot of Mustang sanctuaries, so they live on the land, they run in their herds, and they've been sort of that poster child for like, can we break them?
Right.
Can we tame them?
Yeah.
You hear and you see a lot of the horse whisperers talk about this process.
The Mustang medicine in particular, it just reminded me a lot of what you're doing with clients in a little bit of a different way. But they are bringing people in bedridden or otherwise and doing these intensives, and before you know it, by the end of the intensives, these humans are laying on these Mustangs on top of them.
Isn't that amazing?
These animals that only know, for the most part, Mustangs, fight or flight, are calm to the point where you're laying on them. I mean, that is that's what reminded me when you were talking about the work you do with clients, is this attunement, this alignment, this coming into embodiment and oneness with this really huge
and assuredness and confidence and self. It's really S with a capital S, you know? It's like this inner knowing that you're like, I'm going to be okay. I can find that.
Which is so, if that was in a pill, it'd be selling it'd be selling out everywhere. And what's really cool about it is we want the viewers to know that it's there and accessible for each and every one of you.
It is.
It has been such a pleasure having you on, but before we go, I wanted to ask you one more question. You may have answered it on the front end a little bit, but for the viewers, I'm very in alignment with professionals, passionate professionals with a tremendous amount of purpose. And so I find myself asking each individual that I have the opportunity to interview is like, what is your overarching why? Why do you do this? Why do you fight so hard for this?
Well, I thought about that because you sent me your questions, and I was like, I want people to experience the awe, the beauty, and the connection with feeling alive and engaged with ourselves and with our natural environment. Like, I feel called to be a steward and to sort of be a way shower for others along this process of discovery, self-discovery. So, yeah.
That is wonderful. I love that, because there's going to be a myriad of people that are watching this show today that are sitting there with like a 6.5 out of 10 quality of life.
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe sober 10 years or been in the field 10 years, whatever it is, and just thinking like, is this it?
Yeah, want something more.
Want something more. And you really showed the viewers today and certainly re-emphasized my passion behind healing, growing together, coming into community. And some of the resources, some of the more cost-effective resources that we have at our disposal today. And so I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Do you have a website you'd like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, I have a few, but you can
do
reach
it.
me.
I almost wrote that and I was like, yeah, she can do this.
Yeah, so if you are looking for one-on-one coaching with me, you can check me out at wayfindingpractice.com. Okay. You can find everything about me under amitycooper.com.
Wonderful website.
Oh, thank
Reads
you.
really well. It's fresh. It's like
Thanks.
got light colors.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But I think as an access point, an entry point into all of the services and programs that I do, Wayfinding Practice is probably the best way to reach me.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get you in front of our treatment team. They're absolutely going to love the resource that you're creating in the community and begin to move into. So thank you so much for coming on today.
I loved your energy, and this was just so fun for me.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more and being part of it.
I cannot wait. We'll have to have you on again for a 2.0 after I come down and get some equine therapy. I want to be in that space on the 40 acres. I want to see if my mind's eye is accurate.
We can walk barefoot in the trees.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Amity.
Yeah,
Until next time. Thank you all for joining us today. Please find us on all of your podcast outlets, Instagram, Facebook, podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, you name it. Until next time, peace.